Welcome to today's mathematics class. So in today's mathematics class, we are going to continue our revision which we started last week. In today's class, we are going to be looking at 2022 GCE Paper 2, where we'll start with section A, moving on to section B. So before I start, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out when our next video will be released. And also don't forget to comment if you are behind or if you have any question on this topic. And also don't forget to share the video to your friends who may also be writing their GCE this term. So to begin, we have our first question, which is saying x plus 6 divided by x minus 2 over x minus 4 as a single fraction in its lowest term. So what you need to understand here first is this term, lowest term. So meaning you have to simplify it further. You don't just end once it is a single fraction. So how can we simplify it to the lowest term? So pay particular attention. So we have our question, which is 6x minus 2 minus 2x minus 4. So this is the question we are simplifying. So our step 1, whenever we are simplifying, is to find what? The common denominator between the two, because this is a fraction. Always when you're dealing with fraction, addition and subtraction, the first thing you should find is what? The common denominator. So how can you find the common denominator? The denominators, before we find the common denominator, you have to understand that the top part is known as the numerator and the bottom part is known as the denominator. Yeah. So when I'm saying you have to find the common denominator, I'm saying you have to find numbers which x minus 4 can go into without leaving a remainder, and also x minus 2 without leaving a remainder. And those numbers are exactly the same numbers we have, because you can never find a number which can go where x minus 2 can go in apart from x minus 2 itself. And you can never find a number where x minus 4 can go into, but it is just what? X minus 4. So our first step is done. We have identified what? Our common denominator. Now, how do we write them? So just say x minus 2. Here you say x minus 4. So our first step is done. We have found our common denominator. So moving on to our second step. Now we have to subtract. So how do we subtract? So this is where you have to pay attention. So once you write this common denominator, the quickest way in which you can solve this question is now you have to close multiply. Why are we close multiplying? Because if we say x minus 2 into x minus 2, of course we have what? 1, which means we remain with what? X minus 4 times 6. Same, if you say x minus 4 divided by x minus 4, we are going to remain with what? X minus 2, which will multiply by 2. That's how subtraction and addition works. But I have a trick for you which can help you to solve this question fast. Instead of you dividing, you just close multiply. You say 6 times x minus 4. So you say 6 times x minus 4. Then you pick again minus 2 times what? X minus 2. So meaning our step 1 is done. we have made the question into a single fraction, but the question is saying you have to leave it in its lowest term. So we are not done, we are moving on. So now here you can multiply 6 times x, we have 6x. 6 times negative 4, we have what? Negative 24. Then we move on to negative 2. Negative 2 times x, we have negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 2, we have positive 4. Then what is our denominator? X minus 2, x minus 4. Then here the next step is what? You simplify. So here we have to simplify. So how can you simplify? Step 1, group the like terms. Things which have x, you group them together. Things without x, again, you group them together. So you say 6x minus 2x minus 24 plus 4 divided by x minus 2, x minus 4. Then here now we can have our final answer, which can be 6x minus 2x, we have what? 4x. 24, negative 24 plus 4, we have what? 20. Then you divide by x minus 2. Then here we have x minus 4. Yeah. So this is our what? Our answer. But remember again, we have to leave it in its lowest term. So if you look the top part, you can see that the top part you can factorize it. So don't leave it here if you can see that the top part can be factorized. So our final answer therefore will be 4x minus 5 divided by what? X minus 2, x minus 4. So meaning this is our final answer, which can get you 3 marks. So this is how you solve an express question, which is 3 marks. So this question always comes in paper 2. All the questions I've listed here, they come in paper 2. So you need to pay particular attention as I'm solving the questions. Yeah. Moving on to our part B on question 1. So our part B on question 1 is saying we have to evaluate. So the question we have to evaluate is this one. So we have 2, negative 3, 4 minus 3x squared dx. Yeah. So whenever you see dx, just know that this is calculus. So whenever you see dx, just know that this is calculus. So now how can you know which calculus you are dealing with? Because we have 2 types of calculus which you need to know at your grade 12: integration and differentiation. So whenever you see this symbol, just know that this symbol means integration. Then when you see dy dx, just know that it's differentiation. Yeah, so these are the 2 terms which you need to understand before we start solving the question. So after you have identified that, okay, this question I'm dealing with is integration or differentiation, now you have to identify which formula you have to use, because we have 2 formulas. We have one formula for integration, the other formula for what? Differentiation. So after identifying the question, now you move on to identifying which formula you're supposed to use. Because if you just go direct solving, you get the question wrong and it's 3 marks. Losing 3 marks in paper 2, it's what? It's a suicide. You are killing yourself. So in paper 2, especially section A, don't lose marks because that's where a lot of marks are. If you fail section A in paper 2, the chances of you passing are below 10. So make sure section A you do well. Yeah. So now we say that after I've identified, now we move on to the formulas. So the formulas for integration and differentiation. So whenever you hear integration, whenever you see this symbol, the formula which should come into your mind is a x n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. So meaning this will be your formula which you'll be using to what? To integrate your question. So what do these symbols mean? So they say the letter A means what? The number. Whilst X means X. Then when you look at N, N is just the power. So you say N is the power and A is the what? Is the variable or the number. Yeah. So this is the formula which we use for integration. Now, the formula which you be using when you are differentiating is dy dx is equals to n a x n minus 1. So what does this formula mean? So this formula, it means before you subtract the power, you have to multiply it with what? The number. Then you subtract the power. So these are the two formulas which you need to know when you are handling questions on calculus. So now let's solve the question. At least now you know the formulas which to use and how to identify which question it is. So step 1, you have to write this into the formula form. So now you say, so before you start, you have to ignore this part because we know that it's integration. So the main part which you have to focus on is this one. So you say 4x 0 plus 1 divided by 0 plus 1. Then minus 3x 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1. So most of you are wondering where the 0 plus 1 is coming from and the x, because 4 has no x. Remember, we said that any number raised to the power 0 is what? 1. So meaning if 4 has no letter, meaning it has x to the power 0. Because if say x to the power 0, 1 times 4, we have 4. Then here we say that you add 1 to the power, then the same thing you do to the power, you bring it down. So now here you have 4x minus 3x to the power 3 divided by 3. So once you reach here, look for any way you can simplify the fraction. If you can simplify it, simplify. But if you cannot simplify it, leave it the way it is. So in our case, we have 3 divided by 3, which you can cancel. So our final equation will be 4x minus x to the power 3. Then once you reach here, remember the question has not finished. The question is saying evaluate. We have to solve an answer. So once you reach here, now you can go back to this part which you left. So this part we left, which is 2 and negative 3, you write it here. Why are we writing this here? So this question is known as the integration of the upper and lower limit. So this down here is known as the lower limit, and this is the upper limit. So in simple terms, we are calculating the area of something. Yeah. So now once you have this, remember here we have to subtract the upper limit minus the lower limit. So how do you identify which one is the upper, which one is the lower? So here in simple terms, the upper limit will always be on top, then the lower will be always what? Below. So meaning 2 is our upper limit, then 3 is our lower limit. So since we have this equation, you write 2. You say 4x minus x to the power 3. Again, you subtract the same thing. 4x minus x to the power 3. Then here we are using what? The upper. Then here we are using the lower limit. So once you reach here, meaning your question is already done. Here just replace where there is x you put 2, then this side where there is x you put -3, then you solve. So let's see, solve. So you say 4, you put 2 minus 2 to the power 3 minus 4 -3 minus 3 to the power 3. Yeah. So when you multiply 4 times 2, you have 8 2 to the power 3, again you have 8 minus 4 times -3, we have -12. Then minus -3 to the power 3, we have -27. Then positive times negative, we have positive 27 minus 12. Okay, so let's continue here. So we said that we have 2 minus 2 to the power 3, then minus 4 -3 minus -3 to the power 3. So here we say that 4 times 2 is 8. So we said 4 times 2 is what? 8. Very funny. Okay, so now here what remains is just multiplying. So 4 times 2, we have 8 minus 8, which is our upper limit. Then you say minus 4 times -3, we have what? -12. Then -3 to the power 3, we have -27. Then here we said negative times negative, we have what? Positive 27. Then here we have -12 minus, then here we have what? 0. When you subtract 8 minus 8 is 0. So meaning we are only remaining with this side. Then when you say 12 plus 27, you look at the signs. The signs are different. So meaning we have to subtract the bigger number from the smaller number. Then we pick the sign of the bigger number. So here you say 27 minus 12 is what? 15. But remember, there was a negative outside the brackets. So meaning our final answer is what? -15. Once you reach here, meaning you have solved your question. You have gotten your 3 marks in paper 2. So So don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel so that you don't miss out when I post the video for question 2 up to 5.